So the first video that I watched was Immigration by the Numbers with Mr. Roy Beck, a very obviously conservative individual with a very obvious bias against immigration policy, and for that matter, U.S. Congress, it would seem, which particularly in this instance I can't say is especially ill-founded. But what the presentation boiled down to was a number of charts and graphs, and there was even a demonstration piece made out of PVC pipe that he could stack one on top of the other to show how much the population has grown and is growing and will continue to grow. Um, but essentially it presented hard analytical data of what immigration has done to the U.S. population and what it will continue to do. The main focus of the video was a chart, sort of a line graph sort of thing that was up on the screen behind him, and it showed what the U.S. population would be if we had continued without immigration, just completely in the absence of immigration. What it would have been if we had allowed immigration at a rate intended to sustain the population of people that currently live in the U.S. And finally, and most shockingly about the whole thing, it demonstrated what the population will be in 2020, 2050, all the way up to 2100, if we keep allowing immigration into the country if we are right now. One of the things that I found particularly interesting about this video was that if you scrolled down into the comments section below it, you could see a lot of very passionate comments from a lot of very excitable, very angry people talking about how the person giving this presentation is a fearmonger and a hate monger, and he's spreading propaganda of his own devising. And to an extent, I can see where they're coming from a little bit on a couple of the things that he said. For example, the effect that immigration is going to have on our culture, the effect that it's going to have on our infrastructure, that can be predicted, but you can't present it as fact because some of it is opinion-based. So if I have a criticism for this video, it would be that, and that is a very small part of the video, so I don't have much criticism. Because what most of these people, even the most angry among their number, could not argue with was the analytical data that he presented. You can't say that if you let X number of people into the country, it won't increase the population by X%, because that's not how math works. So, in conclusion, it was a very interesting video. I honestly didn't know that immigration was happening at the rate that it is. But I know that this video was a call to change policy, a call to change certain aspects of our government, and I would advise people to watch it if they're sort of on the fence about certain immigration issues. So the second video that I watched was Immigration World Poverty, and Gumballs. And this was another interesting video, sort of in the style of a similar video called The $100 Million Penny, which if you haven't seen, and I feel like most people have by this point, it was a really popular video there for a little while. But if you haven't seen it, look it up. It's The $100 Million Penny. It's pretty informative. So this was similar to that, only instead of pennies, he used gumballs as a way to represent a certain number of people. I want to say each gumball represented 1,000,000 people. I think I could go back and look, but I'm pretty sure it was 1,000,000 people. And he showed, using these gumballs, how many people in the world are living on a daily wage of less than $2. And it was an enormous number of people. And then, using gumballs once again, he demonstrated the number of people living at an average daily wage below that of Mexico's, which, once again, was an absolutely enormous number of people. I'll back up a little bit. What this video, the purpose of this video was to criticize U.S. immigration policy's effects on world poverty, because we have been told that if we allow a certain number of people into the country each year, we will be helping to combat world poverty, world hunger, a lot of the bad things that are happening in life right now through immigration. And this video was designed to show that that's not really how it's worked, and it's not going to get any better. So, like I said, it demonstrated those under $2 a day and those under the daily wage of the average Mexican citizen. And it was a tremendous, just enormous number of people, which is relevant because the majority of immigrants coming into the United States are coming in from Mexico. And people say that that is helping in terms of poverty, but really when you look at the whole world, instead of just our continent, or even our hemisphere for that matter, you can really see that we're not making much of a dent in the problem, especially when you account for the number of people being born into poverty that are not able to pull themselves out. So this video really did a good job of demonstrating how U.S. government policy is not doing as much to alleviate world poverty as it could. And at the same time harming the U.S. because, like he said in the last video, there are certain effects on culture and infrastructure and just the country as a whole. There are certain detriments to allowing impoverished immigrants into the country. And I don't think even the most liberal among us can argue that. Sure, there are positives as well, but there are detriments. So yeah, I guess my thoughts on the video would be that a lot of what he said in the second video would be easy to disagree with. But at the end, he said that the way to solve world poverty was not through immigration, but rather to help people where they live in their home countries. Because if we can build up these countries, it will be not only beneficial to the people living in them, it will be beneficial to us, because we won't have the burden of impoverished immigrants coming into the U.S. if they're not so impoverished. So yeah, I suppose that is my thoughts on both of them.